It's time for Windows Weekly. Paul Thurrott's got the week off. He's in the Eiffel Tower eating, believe it or not. Peter Bright from Ars Technica is here. Dr. Pizza, along with Mary Jo Foley. We'll talk about the latest Windows 8 news, a couple of names that Microsoft's dropping besides Metro, and maybe a good theory about why they're losing the Metro. It's all coming up next on Windows Weekly.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Bandwidth for Windows Weekly is provided by Cachefly at CACHEFLY.com. This is Windows Weekly with Paul Thurrott and Mary Jo Foley, episode 273, recorded August 9th, 2012. Honey, Microsoft don't care. Windows Weekly is brought to you by Ford, featuring the My Ford mobile smartphone app for electric vehicles. The My Ford mobile app makes the electric driving experience fun and efficient. Learn more about Ford electric vehicle technologies at ford.com/technology. It's time for Windows Weekly. Get ready. Fasten your seatbelts. We're about to cover the wild and wacky world of Windows with, of course, the great Mary Jo Foley. Wow, Mary Jo, you've changed. The great Mary Jo, there she is, Foley, author of course, the All About Microsoft blog on ZDNet. Hey, Mary Jo, it's good to have you. Welcome.
Thanks.
And would you like to introduce Peter for us?
I would love to. Today we're having as our guest co-host Dr. Pizza, as he's known on Twitter, Peter Bright from Ars Technica, another Microsoft watcher.
Yes,
we sometimes call Paul Thurrott's doppelganger.
His British doppelganger.
Yes.
Nice to have you,
He's
Peter.
He's shaking his head.
Paul is, as we speak, dining on the Eiffel Tower. Not on it, in it. He's, well, around it, near it, on the ledge. So he couldn't be with us, but Peter has gamely volunteered to step in his place. Peter, welcome. It's good to have you.
Hi, hello.
Peter writes for Ars Technica, and I love you're right. You're as close as you can get to the curmudgeonly Paul Thurrott. He called you the Christopher Hitchin of Windows tech writers. He believes there is no Bill Gates. It's an interesting stance, and no, just teasing. Let's start with our first item. Item number 1, Microsoft blocks Windows 8's ability to boot directly to, and I can't call it Metro, I guess the UI formerly known as Metro. Biz users grab pitchforks. Mary Jo Foley, it's getting worse by the minute.
Okay, so I was trying to channel a little Thurrott snarkiness when I wrote that note. I don't know if I achieved that goal, but I wrote a post this week about Microsoft blocking the ability to boot directly to Metro. Well, I'm going to keep calling it Metro UI. And I didn't think this was going to be
Everybody's going to call it Metro because you got to have a name for it.
I know. I didn't think this was going to be huge, but 600 comments later on my blog, people are like going nuts. They're up in arms.
You're going to have to explain this to me because I could understand if it said, "Oh, you can't boot directly to the desktop," because people, I presume, want to do that with Windows 8 in business.
I'm sorry. That is what I mean.
Oh, then we don't have to say the word Metro.
No, we don't even have to say the word Metro.
Let's take the word Metro out. Now I'm pissed.
Now
so
you're
you mean
mad,
I'm
right? forced
to boot to Metro, and we always presume there might be some group policy editor setting that would let you boot to a desktop because you're an intelligent business person and you just want to use Excel. Please. No.
Yeah. No
Whoa.
seems to be the word. Yeah. Microsoft's not confirming this right now because the RTM bits are not officially out. But people who've downloaded the bootlegged versions are saying, some of the hacks they were using to go direct to the desktop have been blocked.
Wow.
And then I asked Rafael Rivera, Paul's co-author on Windows 8 Secrets.
A little hacker dude.
He checked it out for me and said, you can't use group policy to go straight to the desktop anymore. So, people are not happy, and mostly not happy because they feel like, they should be able to use Windows 8 the way they want to. They're buying it. Right. They should have the choice.
Why would they do that?
I think they're trying to get people more accustomed to Metro and get developers to think they should build Metro-style apps.
It's part of their being all in on Metro.
Right. Right. But yeah, people are, and then, there's two sides of this coin. There's some people who say, no big deal. You can use the Windows keys, to get around this and go straight to the desktop. And why are you guys complaining? Stop whining. But a lot of IT managers say, hey, we don't even want our users going into Metro because this is a work machine and we don't need them to be using the weather app, the travel app, the cookbook app.
That's not realistic, though.
Yeah.
They're going to be in Metro eventually because that's the start menu. That is how you start apps.
Isn't that all they're saying is this is the start menu. This is how you begin, and you will then click Excel, and you'll be in Excel, and you'll be done.
Yeah.
Right.
So the difference is as soon as you log in, the start menu is open. That's what people are upset about. So in the consumer preview, yes, there was a registry key that you could change, and it would boot to the desktop. It still used the start screen, but it just didn't show it, and that's now gone.
Yeah.
So maybe it's not a horrendous thing.
Yeah.
But you said how many hundreds?
600 people so far. And not all of them are saying, yeah, I'm mad. Some are saying, stop whining, everybody. But there are other things you can do, too. If you're somebody who is worried about things like training costs for Windows 8, say you're an IT manager and you're like, wow, this is going to be so different for my users. I mean, you can do things like use Stardock Start 8, which puts the start button back on. There are things you can do to get around this. There's also an open source program called the Classic Shell that I'm told still works on the final bits of Windows 8. It's over on SourceForge if you want that. You can go get that and put back all the things that are gone that you are used to and you want your users to still have. But I think it's just people, to some degree, reacting to change, and to some degree, people just saying this is going to be a lot of thing that is too different for people who are accustomed to something already.
Although it's a knee-jerk reaction. I had the same knee-jerk reaction, which is, oh, no. And then you think, yeah, it is just a start menu. Yeah. And I guess part of the knee-jerk reaction is because we've been kind of we've been preparing ourselves. We've been girding ourselves for this day. We knew this day would come. Microsoft did never imply that there'd be a desktop-only solution. In fact, I think they always said there wouldn't be, right?
Right. They said, this is Metro.
This is Metro. Metro is it. That's why we don't even call it Metro, because it's Windows.
I can't believe that businesses are planning to roll out Windows 8 and not use the start screen either. Yeah, in theory they could use the Stardock software or the open source shells, but are they gonna?
No.
Is that really gonna happen? I think they'll either stick with Windows 7 if they want to stick with the start menu and not have the training costs, or they will just go for Windows 8 and train people how to use it. I think this is people making a big fuss because they're just going to have to very slightly change how they use their computers. I don't think it's a real problem.
You know what this, though, is a rehearsal, dress rehearsal for when Windows 8 actually comes out.
Yeah.
Right? Because we're going to see the same knee-jerk reaction from people who aren't paying close attention.
Yeah.
Saying, what?
Yeah.
Exactly.
So if anything, this is preparing us for what we'll see in October.
Yeah, and Microsoft wants us to use this different stuff. That's, I think that's fairly clear. They want developers to write Metro apps. They want people to be using Metro apps. They want everyone to think that Metro is kind of how their computer should look, how their phone should look, how their games console should look. Mm-hmm. It's pretty strategic, I think, so I can't see them backing down.
Is that a little bit of a shift for Microsoft? You know, you always think of Apple as being the company that tells users how it's going to be. And I always think of, and maybe I'm wrong, Microsoft as the company that just tries to get along with everybody. Is that not? Am I mistaken to have that impression? You guys live it.
I think that's changed. I think there is some truth to what you say, but if you look at like the Explorer changes made in Windows Vista and Windows 7, the taskbar changes in Windows 7, I think Microsoft has started to take a harder line. Like, you can't go back to the classic start menu in Windows 7. I don't know why you would want to, but you can't do it. You can change how the taskbar behaves a bit, but you can't go back to how it was in like Windows 2000 or Windows XP. I think Microsoft is a bit more confident in the changes they've made, and certainly for Metro, I think they think it's important that we use these changes. And if users don't like that, that's too bad. They can stick on Windows 7. That's fine.
Take It Two in our chat room says that I have a childlike view of things. That is the child's view. You're such a child, Leo. I think what he means is it's overly simplistic, but I don't know. I mean, I think that was, and maybe Microsoft's looking at Apple saying, well, that is an advantage for them because they can, as dictator of the desktop, they can make advances, and legacy has always been the bête noire of Microsoft, that they have to continually support legacy code. The ability to say, for Microsoft to say, all right, we're moving ahead. They must.
It's more than that, though, because I think Apple gets much better traction amongst its developer community. They're much better at using new features and taking advantage of new things that Apple has added. We're seeing some pushback now with Apple's Mac Store and the tight controls they want on the software there. But as a whole, I think the Apple ecosystem is much better at using the technology. You know, most Windows programs are still going to run on Windows XP, and even though Windows Vista and Windows 7 have added lots of new stuff, they don't use them because they need to run on XP.
Right.
You don't get that same kind of clinging to the past by the Apple third-party developers.
Right. So the survey says, what do IT pros like and dislike about Windows 8? This comes from Tech Republic.
It does. And you know what I thought was interesting about this? So, we talk a lot on Windows Weekly about, what do IT professionals think of Windows 8? So, it's a very different thing what consumers and people who are more open to change and open to trying something new on a touch tablet feel about Windows 8 versus what IT pros feel about Windows 8. And I feel like I'm always kind of the voice in the wilderness here, saying, this is what IT pros are worried about. Right. This is what they're mad about. So this survey is interesting. It's like about 3,000 or so IT professionals Tech Republic surveyed. And they did a nice little infographic. I don't know if you want to put it up or not. But it shows you, what do they like and what don't they like about Windows 8 from what they've heard, seen, and tried so far. And it's basically what we say all the time on Windows Weekly. They're worried about things like no start button because their users are used to that, right? They're worried about retraining and retraining costs and how long it's going to take. They're worried about not being able to manage using Active Directory with Windows RT-based ARM tablets. They're all the things that we have heard about, talked about here. But it's just nice to see, it's just not me or just one or two people saying this. This is like 3,000 people, which is a pretty good size survey, representing what these people are worried about and what they like, too.
So what is your guess, looking at this, what is your best guess as to uptake of Windows 8? Isn't Enterprise just going to stay with Windows 7? In fact, move to Windows 7 because a lot of them are still using XP. Isn't that what we're hearing? Isn't that what this means?
Yeah, I think so.
So what do you think, who, if anybody, is going to move to Windows 8?
Consumers.
But I mean in business, obviously consumers, yeah.
I think Windows 8's best chance is if it gets like the iPhone effect or the iPad effect.
That's certainly what Microsoft's hoping for.
Where C-level executives says, "Hey, I just got this Windows 8 tablet.
Right.
Here, IT guy, make it work. Make it part of our
it's kind of a twist.
Infrastructure."
Windows is the BYOD now in this scenario. The bring your own device. Yeah. Hey, look what I have. I have a Windows 8 computer. You can't use that here. Wow, that's an interesting scenario.
It's a big turnaround.
Yeah,
but I don't. There are some really nice things in Windows 8 that I think enterprises will like, but the training cost I think is going to scare the hell out of them.
But this isn't this always kind of sort of the case? I mean, look, Vista, nobody adopted Vista. They all stayed with XP. Is this kind of the way it is? And maybe Microsoft just acknowledges that and say, look, we know that they're probably going to, if they haven't moved to Windows 7, they will move to Windows 7 now, and that we'll get them on Windows 9.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they could, because if they're software assurance customers particularly, it doesn't matter. They're not buying Windows 8 or Windows 7.
They're just
buying
Windows. They just have
Windows on the desktop, and it's whatever they use doesn't matter if they're paying the same money. So they might just say, well, we'll get you guys in Windows 9.
Yeah, I think so. And a couple of IT shops, pretty big ones that I've talked to, I think I mentioned this before, they already knew even before they saw Windows 8.
Yeah.
Like without even knowing it, they were like, yeah, we're just going to Windows 7, Windows 9. That we skip every other version pretty much because, there's just not enough time for us to test and deploy. When you're deploying to, hundreds of thousands of desktops, especially, that, you can't be doing every single Windows release. Just can't.
So Microsoft can safely ignore any howls of pain.
I don't know safely, but I think they're expecting some resistance, and they can cope with it. Yeah. It was the same with Office 2007. Big user interface changes. Quite a lot of companies didn't pick it up, but Office 2010 seems to be doing a lot better. The companies will come around to it eventually, maybe with a bit of refinement on Microsoft's part. But I think they can take the long game when it comes to enterprise.
And I think the other thing we don't have, or that doesn't really exist yet, are Windows 8 specific versions of enterprise apps that they see in the store and say, yeah, I want Windows 8 because of that app. Like most of the apps that are in the store, 450 apps or so that are in the store right now, almost every single app is a consumer app.
Yeah, it's cocktail mixing apps.
Cocktail flow.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you don't see CRM apps yet. You don't see ERP apps yet. Those are probably 2013, 2014. And, when those start coming in, then it's also more of an enticement to an enterprise.
Apps drive it, don't they?
They do.
Yeah.
To some extent.
I mean, if Excel works as well in Windows 7 or even Windows XP as it does in Windows 8, then you don't really care.
Right.
Well, they're cutting XP loose, aren't they?
Well, obviously you care there because you have to have the updates. You have to have, security.
But Windows 7 will be just as good.
Yeah. And Excel is Excel. In fact, let's not worry about this Metro thing and just kind of, How about Office 15? Does Office 15 require movement? No. You can still be on Windows 7.
Yep.
Yeah. So the
Except OneNote MX. That's... which was so successful just now. So that's not really selling Windows 8, I don't think.
That's interesting. Next week, we start getting bits, yes?
Yes.
The bits are shipping.
Yep. Yeah, so if you're an MSDN user, you get the bits next week on August 15th. TechNet, I don't know what Peter's heard on this, but I keep hearing conflicting things on TechNet. TechNet, I hear either they're going to get the bits also on the 15th or they're going to get a trial version. Do you know?
I thought they were going to get the bits, but I've seen a lot of people saying it'll be a trial. It would seem rather annoying for TechNet subscribers to only get a trial. I would be quite surprised if they did that. But
yeah. I don't know. Every time I ask for clarification, I just get... we have nothing more to share at this time.
Yeah. Look at the blog post. That's
at the blog post.
Stephen has said it all.
Stephen has said it all.
He has spoken.
Yeah.
The great
and then
powerful.
August 16th, if you're a customer with software assurance and you're a volume licensee, you can get the bits. Partner Network gets them on the 16th. So a lot of people are going to get the bits next week. Yep.
The bits are getting out.
Bits are getting out.
Bits are getting out. And does that mean that we will start, people like, well, you guys will have the bits, right? You can start saying this with assurance, this is it, right?
Yes. Although some people are already saying that who've downloaded some illegal copies.
I have been offered BitTorrented and other versions, yes. I don't touch that stuff because it just seems to me that's rife for exploitation.
Yeah.
So I just don't want to mess with that. But it is to be presumed that from August 15th on, there will be lots of copies floating around in a variety of different ways. What are they doing to protect it? Are they doing still the same Windows Genuine Advantage? And
it's more or less the same. It seems a bit stricter than in Windows 7.
In terms of what machine changes you can make? Or?
Yeah, well, quite a bunch of little things. Like Windows 7 you could install without a product key. And you got, I think, 3 days or something.
Like that? Yeah.
So, yeah, something. So you could just pick, Ultimate, whatever, and just use it and not put in a product key. It would stop working after a while, but you could do that, and it was fully functional. Windows 8 isn't like that. I don't know quite what it is like because I haven't tried out the RTM version yet because I don't have it yet. And like you, I'm not going to BitTorrent it.
Nope.
But I'm hearing it's a lot stricter. Like a lot of functionality just doesn't work until you put in the product key.
So, you won't even have any trial period of any time of any kind.
It sounds not
interesting. That would be a shift.
Yeah.
Why would they do that? Was that a source of piracy?
I guess it probably was because you could use it as long as you're happy to reinstall or hack
every
it
30
somehow
days.
to reset the timer every 30 days. You could use it forever. So that's probably not really great for them.
Yeah.
It's great for pirates, but not so much for Microsoft. And we're seeing a lot of crackdowns. I think last week Paul was talking about TechNet licenses. Maybe I imagined that.
Yeah. No, that was right.
Yeah.
Giving fewer
product
keys, fewer activations to TechNet subscribers. I think I don't know if MSDN subscribers have seen something cut back there, but it wouldn't surprise me. It does seem that they're just being a lot stricter.
I wonder if that's going to backfire. It seems like the ability, especially with something so new and different, that people are going to kind of want to say, "Well, let me try it for 30 days and see how I feel." Don't you think that there'll be some desire to do that?
Yeah, I think they're just kind of saying, guys, it's $40. You know, if you're going to lose $40,
that's a good point. Okay, so they resolve it that way. It's so cheap, you just buy it. And $40 is for one machine. Are they doing the family licenses that they did last time, or anything like that? Have we heard?
I don't think we've heard about Family Pack, but I forget. Can't you install on 5 machines or
for $40?
Confusing. No, I guess not. I'm confusing it with something else.
Apple. No, sorry. That was a cheap shot.
Yeah.
Oh, cheap shot. I'm sorry. I should.
Yeah, no, it's what?
I think that's Office, actually.
It is something like that. It was Office.
Yeah, but it's $40 to upgrade from XP, Vista, or 7. And
well, but they're assuming. I got the impression that they didn't even check anymore. That they just assume everybody's up, which Paul has always said. Everybody's upgrading from some version. Nope, they're not. You'll have to have the CD. How will you verify that?
I again don't have RTM bits, so I don't know for absolute certain. I think it'll be either you'll have to start the installer from within Windows.
Wow. So what about a clean install? What if I'm installing, I always tell people, wipe the drive.
Traditionally, I think it's let you put in the product key for the previous version.
So don't wipe the drive unless you've got the product key.
Yeah. And I would expect it'll be a similar system to that. Put in the product key of the old version, put in the product key of the new version, then it will install.
Well, all of these questions will be resolved next week for sure. So tune in again because...
the upgrade's probably not. Because things that MSDNers and TechNeters get
that's right. They're not upgrade versions.
Full installs.
Yeah.
That's true. I don't think the upgrades are out till October 26th, right?
So
that $40 thing.
Yeah.
So who knows?
Build 2.0. Finally, they've got a date. They sold tickets briefly. This has now become a competition. This is so interesting.
I know.
Google, Apple, and Microsoft all have developer conferences, and they now literally compare how fast it sold out. It's like
They do.
Google was saying 25 minutes or something. So build sold out how fast?
About
It
an
was
hour, I
just
think.
under an hour.
Losers. No,
Yeah.
just kidding. Just kidding. Oh, a whole hour. Oh my God! How many tickets though? I mean, it's probably a lot bigger,
last
right?
year's build, though, last year's build took I think 2 months to sell out.
Well, that is a big difference.
Yeah.
That actually is that's really what you should be comparing it with. That is a reasonable comparison. So compared to last time, big difference. That means people want to develop for Windows 8. That's what Build's all about, right?
Smaller event this time,
Yeah.
Okay,
I think,
well, that's another
because
way
it's
to do it.
smaller venue. But still no agenda, I don't think, which was
No. I don't think we're
the
going to see.
big gripe last time. That everything was secret. Didn't find out till you got there. So I think it's secret again this year. I think a lot of people are signing up in the expectations that they'll get some really nice giveaways. Because everything will be streamed, I'm sure, because it always is. But, I think people want to get a Surface tablet. I think they're hoping they might get a Windows Phone 8 phone. That's the reason to sign up.
That's the other competition between Apple.
Right.
See, Apple doesn't give you crap, but Google, it's like you'd have to bring a Santa Claus sack when you go to a Google I/O. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's typical.
I/O looks a good one to go to if you want
frills free. Well, it's been escalating. The first time I think it was just a phone. Now it's like you got 5 different things, and an opportunity to plunk down $1,500 for Google Glass.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't know what the giveaway is going to be. So last year at Build, if you were a paying attendee, you got the Samsung tablet, which was a pretty cool giveaway. But a lot of people have jumped to the conclusion, we're all going to get Surfaces. Surface RT for everyone.
Oh, that's what it is.
That's the assumption. That's
I want an
Yeah.
RT.
Yeah. Yeah, but we don't know. RTs just go on sale on October 26th, which is about 3 days before Build. So yeah, maybe,
That would make
and maybe
sense. That would make sense.
not. Yep. Could do it.
Yeah. I'm definitely in line to buy an RT. I have to find a Microsoft store, but as soon as I can find one, I will get in line.
You'll be able to buy it online as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
No, I'm excited about the RT tablet, and I guess there's no point in getting excited about Windows Pro Surface because it's
3 months later.
it's Christmas. It's after
January.
Christmas.
Oh, post Christmas. That's the amazing thing.
Yeah.
So,
Well, it's not a Christmas gift that people are looking for under the tree.
You
Windows.
think?
Well, I think they want Windows RT to be the consumer device, right?
yeah, but I think certainly a lot of the hardcore nerds want the.
Oh, I want both.
Device,
Yeah,
because
because it's a PC.
Because that's the great thing about the Surface
Yeah.
Pro is that it can actually run applications
Right.
and it will run the software they have,
Right.
which the RT one won't, and who knows what it will run.
Right. Well, there's a lot to be said for that.
Yeah, no, I agree, but I suspect that a lot of people who would otherwise be early adopters are going to hold back and wait for the x86 one.
Don't.
'Cause you don't really need both.
No, you need both. Don't hold back. We need to prime that pump. Everybody buy one. Nope. If you hold back, you're undermining the entire Windows ecosystem. It's your fault if it fails. If you don't immediately go out and buy a Windows RT and put an order in for the Windows Pro, so you got to have at least 2 Surfaces, or you're not doing your part. I'm just saying.
So you want more than 450 apps, do you?
That's right. We got an ecosystem to build here. Let's not forget.
Yeah.
We're talking. This is fun. It's good to have Dr. Pizza. Why do they call you Dr. Pizza, Phil? I mean, Peter,
it's a long and boring story.
Does it involve pizza?
It does involve pizza,
And it's fascinating.
It's okay. I'm ready to bore you.
No, that's okay.
It's IRC stupidity.
There you go. That's all you need to say. That's all you need to say. Just say it's a handle. Everybody's got a handle that they're embarrassed of. It's funny. I had Daniel Suarez on yesterday. We did Triangulation, our interview show. Daniel's the guy who wrote Demon and Freedom. And his new book, Kill Decision, just came out. It's like the best, geek fiction ever. And his wife said, ask him about world building. And I said, he apparently was like a D&D 2 dungeon master for 20 years. It was like his whole life. And then she said, ask him about his handle. And he said, no. It was like, no, I will not. And so I thought, okay, I'm not going to press. Sometimes handles are a little personal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially
so you
when
didn't get it out of him? You didn't get the...
I should have afterwards. I should have said, okay, so what's the handle? But he knows me. He probably knows I would say it. I'd be saying it right now if he had told me. So he's a smart man. That's all I can say. Hey, we're going to take a break, come back with more of Dr. Pizza. Peter Bright from ArsTechnica.com, Mary Jo Foley as well. Before we go on, though, I'd like to mention the Ford Motor Company. Talk about apps. Yeah, they're in the same situation. It's kind of interesting. You could compare what Ford is doing to what Microsoft is doing with Windows RT. Ford has a platform. They're vehicles. And that's how they're thinking of it. In fact, they've even opened a Silicon Valley office to make an outreach to app developers to develop for the Ford platform. They have an API. It's called AppLink. It's, of course, on all Ford vehicles, the Ford Sync and My Ford Touch. And this is exactly how... I think it's kind of ingenious. You take something that's a durable good that nobody's going to update for a few years at best, and keep it up to date. You create a platform that people can develop to. Ford's done it. If you want to find out more about the technology in your Ford vehicles, visit Ford.com/technology and check out the 2012 Focus Electric because. In fact, if you test drive this, bring your smartphone, your Android, your iPhone, or your BlackBerry. I don't know why they don't have Windows Phone yet, but I bet you they're waiting for some clever developer to do it because, it is built in the Microsoft car platform, Ford Sync is, so it would be an easy thing to do. They've developed an app, My Ford Mobile app, which is kind of a reference app to show you what you can do, and it's specifically for the electric vehicles. It'll work, I believe, with the Energy when it comes out in just a few months as well. So what it allows you to see what state of charge your car's in, even while it's in the garage and you're in the living room. You can tell it to charge during off-peak hours. You can find out where your car is, how much, if you've got enough charge to get where you'd like to go, where there are charging stations where you're going, even how much CO2, how many pounds of CO2, and how many bucks you've saved. They've got a My Ford Mobile website with leaderboards so you can compete against other My Ford Mobile users, other electric car drivers, to see who's saved the most CO2. It's just, I love what they're doing here. This is an example of what you can do with the API, the AppLink API, and a platform that happens to be your vehicle. State-of-the-art technology in every Ford vehicle. You've got to check it out. Ford.com/technology, or best thing to do, go to your EV certified Ford dealer right now. Bring your smartphone, test drive the vehicle and the My Ford mobile app. When's the last time you test drove an app at a car dealer? Ford.com/technology. We love Ford. We thank them for their support. And we really appreciate all of the support that they're giving to all of our shows, especially Windows Weekly. Back we go to the show. Mary Jo Foley of allaboutmicrosoft.com. Peter Bright of ArsTechnica.com. We made fun of the fact that I can't say the M word. Are they going to name it at all, or is it just going to be what? I mean, we need a word, don't we? You used that word, Mary Jo. You, of all people.
Did. So I'll tell you what I'm hearing on this. I'm hearing they're going to substitute the words Windows 8 for Metro. So instead of saying Metro-style apps, Windows 8 apps.
That makes sense. That's not so far-fetched, is it?
It's not so far-fetched.
It's not very good.
Not.
Well, because
it's not far-fetched, but it's bad.
When I'm on the desktop, I'm still in Windows 8. And these are Windows 8 style apps, but they're not Metro. So
or on the phone, or the phone. Xbox
not...
dashboard. They're still Metro style, but they're not Windows 8.
So Edbot supposed that it had something to do with this ginormous, I think it's number 3 retailer in the world, German company called Metro.
Yep. Metro AG.
Yeah.
Metro AG. Do you think that is an actual trade? Microsoft won't say, but do you think that there's actually a trademark dispute there?
Yes.
That's it.
Yes, definitely.
How interesting.
They have German trademarks on software and software distribution and things like that. I suspect that the issue may not have been necessarily Microsoft using Metro as such, but all these third-party developers creating their apps and calling them Metro whatever.
So yeah, it wouldn't necessarily be Microsoft. Yeah, that makes sense.
Because Microsoft isn't using it on a product.
Right.
They're not trying to register it themselves. So they might have been able to get away because I don't think the trademarks that I could find don't seem to overlap with a sort of aesthetic for a user interface.
Has to be in the same category.
Right. But they do have software trademarks, so as soon as you start having software that's called Metro something, I think that's when it's more problematic.
So this is Tweetro. I've got Tweetro running. I guess Tweetro wouldn't be necessarily infringing on Metro.
Tweetro would be okay.
But if they called it Tweet Metro.
Or Metro Twit.
Or Metro Twit, yeah.
Something along on...
Oh, actually, do we have a Metro Twit app? I think we might.
Yes, indeed.
Whoops.
Yeah.
Whoops.
Yeah.
You know, I think it might be trying to avoid that huge liability.
So it's not really the suing of Microsoft they're worried about. They're trying to protect the third-party app ecosystem.
Well, that's my speculation.
That makes sense. No, that's good. I think that makes sense. You know, Twitter had kind of a similar situation. They said, we have trademarked the word tweet, and we want you to use it if you're going to develop stuff for Twitter because we have the trademark. Be careful.
Yeah, and you know, there's nothing that says third-party software makers have to switch their names from Metro something.
But they might be well advised to do so.
Yeah, it's more. I think this is more an issue for people who are using the name in print. So, like people who are book authors and people who are doing training manuals and maybe websites. But you know, I don't know that there's any obligation, say, on the part of the folks doing Metro Twit to switch the name.
Not unless they get sued.
Right. Then there might be a little just encouragement.
Because Microsoft could block them from the store because I think one of the prereqs to get in the store is that you're not allowed to infringe on other people's intellectual property. You know, you can't infringe on trademarks and things like that. So I think there's definitely a possibility that Microsoft will say, no, we're not going to allow Metro whatever into the store because it's trademark infringement.
I know there's a search. I know somewhere in here there's a search button. I know there is. There's got to be. I just was going to...
If you bring up the charms, Leo.
Oh, it's a charm thing.
Yes.
Yeah, the charms and then go to... So this isn't global search, this is search the store?
Right. When you do it from within an app, it should pick that app as the default search context.
So I'm just going to search for the word Metro in the store because Metro Twit's the very first thing that shows up.
Yeah.
So when I search for Metro in the store, quite a few, well, maybe not. Tweet Paint Metro.
Some of them could have it in their description.
They have it in the description, yeah. These are all, so that wasn't a good search. But there are a few anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense. It's not there, because Microsoft, Metro Group is not doing operating systems. So that isn't really a direct conflict.
You know, I really wonder what the beef was with them and you know, whether Microsoft actually did offer to pay them and they said no. Because, you know, there was The Verge got a hold of the internal memo they said that Microsoft sent to its own employees. And all it said was, we're dropping the name because of discussions we're having with one of our large European partners. And it made me think like, maybe they offered to pay them and they said no.
Yeah.
I
don't know.
I don't think there's any advantage to Microsoft paying. You know, even if that was an option, because I know you, Mary Jo, are not entirely convinced by their description. I think even going so far as to say that they're lying. It's
did I say they were lying?
I think
prevaricating.
They
were prevaricating.
They used it all over their developer docs and things like that, but they've actually steered clear of having a product called Metro, even in places where you'd have thought it might make sense. So like the OneNote Metro app is called not like OneNote Metro or anything like that.
It's
called OneNote MX.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which I think is the branding they should go for if they can get.
Well, that's
the right
Metro. That
name.
implies Metro, doesn't it? MX.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
But it's not Metro, you know.
Right.
Adobe might have some words to say about it, but I don't know.
Because
So it's all because they got
they have Windows.
MX and things like that.
Yeah. I don't. Is that that's not current though?
I don't know.
Yeah.
But everything else was developer facing. Nothing. They haven't done any real sort of marketing material that says Metro. It's called Windows 8 and Windows RT, so no mention of Metro there. So while it's a nice name, and while we need some name to describe that kind of whole concept, it's not a name, I think, that has any traction amongst end users. So let it go. It's not worth fighting for.
I think it's more something like we've all gotten used to it again. Another one of these. Yep, we've all gotten used to using Metro, and everybody just says Metro style apps, the Metro design language. So I think it's jarring to people who've already started incorporating that lingo. But I agree with you. Consumers don't know it yet, and if Microsoft has its way, they never will. It brings up interesting questions about Windows Phone, right? Because Windows Phone has the Metro UI. And so then do you say Windows Phone 8 app style or something for Windows Phone?
Right.
I guess.
That's why I think they need a name that's better than Windows 8 style.
Something that you could say, use this instead.
Yeah.
Not, don't use that, but use this instead.
Even if it ends up being MX style or something like that. It just needs a name.
Yeah.
Because it's calling it Windows 8 style just is silly when you're talking about things that aren't Windows 8.
Yeah.
Does it say Paul Thurrott under your name?
I accidentally put that up there, and I wanted to see if people would be fooled. I just, I don't know. He's eating a lot of French food, and he's just looking more French by the minute. And no, that's not Paul Thurrott. That's Dr. Pizza, Peter Bright, right there. Sorry about that. I pressed the wrong button. I was busy trying to get out of the search in the Windows Metro interface.
Mm-hmm. It's funny that it's one of the things in the user interface that actually I think is going to trip a lot of users up.
It's tripping me up
because you're looking for a magnifying glass icon on the store because that's how you search and that's how you've searched for years and years and years. But no, it's from the charms.
And now I don't even know what's happening. I seem to be cycling through Windows by clicking here. I don't know what's going on. Help me! Fortunately, I can always push the. I can always push the Windows. Any day now, I can push the. Oh, now I broke it. Yeah. Now this isn't it. Now I should. It's not its fault. It's running in virtualization. It's not its fault. So this is not how your. It came alive. Not your experience. Now, how do I uninstall? Do I right-click on something and uninstall? Oh yeah, look at that. That's nice. So I'm going to get rid of Tweetro. I was told use Metro Twit, even though it violates at least 2 trademarks that I'm aware of.
Yeah.
Continue to use it. We are talking with Peter Bright of Ars Technica, Mary Jo Foley. Paul Thurrott, if you're just tuning in, is in France eating at the Eiffel Tower, the lucky fella. That's a nice thing to be able to do. Speaking of virtualization, is this true? According to the license, am I not going to be able to virtualize unless I buy a specific version of Windows 8? What's the story there?
Well, it's a story. We don't really know what the story is. There's a interesting report that compares the licenses of different Windows versions, and the license used to say that you could install it into a emulated system
using the licensed device.
Yeah, and it now says, well, the words
gone.
that said you could don't exist anymore, which is a bit surprising.
In fact, it says you must permanently assign each license to a single device.
Which is also surprising.
You may install one copy of software on the licensed device, not two.
The licensed device is physical hardware.
And the physical hardware system to which a license is assigned. So, in other words, it sounds like one machine, one OS, period.
Yeah, and these are restrictions that are familiar for OEM licenses, because OEM licenses for Windows have always been quite restrictive.
Right.
Like if you get a license with your Dell PC, it's
for that PC,
but it's for that Dell PC.
Nothing else.
Yes, which some people think is kind of a mean thing to do, but that's the way it is. And it looks like they're building similar restrictions into the other licenses.
Well, I'm not going to get up in arms about this yet.
Well,
right.
We'll have to just wait.
This is based on.
It's more tightening the net. That's why it's kind of surprising. And so the consensus is there won't be a regular retail version of Windows 8 that can be installed and then blown away and installed on a new machine and then blown away and then installed on a new machine, which is what retail licenses have traditionally allowed. There will be a system builder license, which will have probably OEM-type constraints, so a single computer tied to that computer, and that will be it. That will be the licenses that are available. So it's the same as all the other restrictions we're seeing there. They're really trying to clamp down, I think, on how people use Windows and how they use their Windows licenses.
Yeah, we should tell people where this is from. So this is from a report by Pika Communications. The person who this is Paul DeGroot. Paul DeGroot's a licensing expert who specialized in Microsoft licenses. He used to work for Directions on Microsoft. So
God, that's got to be the most boring job I can imagine. His job is to read EULAs.
It's a very lucrative job, though.
Oh, wow, I bet. Well, he's obviously an attorney. I mean, he'd have to be.
I don't know if he's an attorney, but his whole profession is like going around and helping people decipher really obscure Microsoft licenses. And so he reads what's called the PUR, the Product Usage Rights Statement, every month that Microsoft puts out. So he noticed that there was a change in August and that they took away this virtualization clause. So, this isn't just a random report. This is something that looks pretty plausible. And he's saying it might be a way for Microsoft to try to drive more software assurance sales.
Wow.
So they may
he
be
says
doing
the upshot of this is you can only do hypervisor if you add software assurance to Windows, purchase a virtual desktop access subscription, or purchase a Windows Intune subscription. But that's not a huge amount of money.
Well, but it's kind of weird. So you're running it in a VM on a Mac.
Yeah.
I think these license terms would say, well, you could buy a system builder license and run it in Boot Camp, but you can't run it in the VM.
Because Boot Camp's tied to the hardware it's running.
Because Boot Camp is physical
directly.
Hardware. And the wording says that.
See, now when I run it, I am running it in Boot Camp, but I'm using VMware to virtualize the Boot Camp partition into my Macintosh. I wonder if that would be a loophole. Yeah, I'm going to do it anyway. I don't care, Microsoft. Come and get me, baby.
It just seems a strange thing to constrain.
Install from network is gone too, according to this.
Let me tell you what Aidan Finn is saying on Twitter. He's a licensing expert also, who I talk to quite a bit. And he's saying volume licensees can move once every 90 days, not for VDI, and only the enterprise has the rights for that, or you can buy VDA. So he's saying this is a reword, not a change, but still I think it's something a lot of people may not realize.
Well, that's why you would subscribe to this, Paul's,
Paul
reports, because it's no big deal for me, but if you've got 10,000 seat licenses and you're running hypervisor, you might care quite a bit, and you would want to know and plan accordingly.
I think actually it's going to be sort of enthusiasts and things that actually fall
System
through
builders,
the gaps.
right?
Yeah.
It's the same with the retail licenses. The only people who would ever make good use of those are enthusiasts. People who
The OEM license.
build new computers all the time and things like that. Because everyone else just has an OEM license.
Just buy a computer.
Software insurance.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Those are the licenses you'd get. That's the Windows you'd get, a special Windows you'd get at Newegg when you buy some hardware because you're a system, you're your personal system integrator. Yeah. And it's a de minimis business, which makes me hope that Microsoft will just kind of ignore it. It's not a huge thing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, interesting suggestion on Twitter. Apparently the change is to get around like people hosting and offering like GDI.
This is the on-cloud and the online stuff and the cloud.
Apparently stop them doing that.
That would make perfect sense. There's 2 apps right now that let you on the iPad that let you run Windows. Mm-hmm. And then Microsoft, remember, was a little up in arms over On Live, and then there's another one. That would make sense that this is aimed at those 2. Because I can run Windows a virtualization off a server somewhere of Windows with Office on my iPad.
Yeah.
And not buy a license.
Yeah. Which they're not very happy about.
No, I can understand that might tweak them just a little bit. Yeah.
I think they want you to buy a Surface for that.
Yeah, Cloud On is the other one. I have it right here. And they actually work quite well.
Have the virtualization right, I think.
That's interesting.
I may be wrong, but I think Windows RT comes with the right to. It's possible I'm making it up or have completely misunderstood because it's all written in legal nonsense. But I think so. Like if you're rolling out Windows RT tablets across your enterprise, your users will have the right to do remote desktop and run legacy apps on like a virtualized desktop. Right. I think.
Yeah, I'm sure it's to kill.
That's one of the bonuses of Windows RT that I'm sure Microsoft will be pushing relative to the iPad. They say, iPad can't do this.
I'm sure this is to kill stuff like this. This is crazy stuff. I am launching a Microsoft Word file on my iPad without iPad versions of Word or Windows, right? Mm-hmm. That makes no sense.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Good Twitter suggestion.
Yes.
That's why you got to listen to the Twitter. So I have to say, and we talked about this last week. Peter wasn't here, of course, but Paul and I and Mary Jo talked about last week how I'm starting to come around on Windows 8. I'm starting to see some. It's not as weird and annoying as it was, and I am actually looking forward to getting a Surface tablet, a Windows AT, although a Windows RT tablet. Although, who was it? Was it the CEO of Acer who said, "You better think twice"?
Yeah.
Microsoft, you may want to rethink this position. I don't think he sounds like that, but it's just it was kind of a threat, right?
Yeah, Acer has been mouthing off about Surface quite a bit. They were very quick after the initial announcement to rubbish Microsoft's efforts and say, "Oh, you can't get anywhere in this market with only 2 devices," because apparently Acer's never heard of a company called Apple or the one device they sell called the iPad. And now that was before it was some vice president. Now it's the CEO himself saying Microsoft needs to think twice and that hardware isn't their strength and that it will be it'll upset a lot of OEMs. But it's quite. I thought it was quite funny because another Acer guy at the same time said, "Oh well, we might have to investigate other software providers." Apparently,
like who?
Apparently he didn't realize that Acer already has a line of Android tablets.
Oh yeah, Android.
And so actually, if Microsoft is kind of cheating on the hardware partners, but the hardware partners started it. They've been sleeping around with Google, and why shouldn't Microsoft retaliate?
I don't know. It's just kind of comical to me. It's like, guys, may the best OEM win. If you think Microsoft's going to do a terrible job, show us. Make a better tablet. Make a better PC. And then we'll buy yours. But don't just say, hey, maybe they should rethink this, because I'm glad they're doing a Surface. I'm glad Microsoft's getting into the hardware game.
Although there was this guy on the internet who wrote this article that said, is Surface Microsoft's confession that Windows 8 really isn't cut out for tablets? Wow. I mean,
who is that guy?
Who could have written
that
such
random guy?
What a strange thing to say. What do you mean by that, Peter Bright? What do you mean?
So, okay.
Think carefully.
To me, it seems quite remarkable. Windows 8, big strength is that it works well on tablets. And it works well with your fingers. So what is Microsoft going to ship with every Surface tablet? A keyboard and a touchpad. And that just, to me,
so
that seems very peculiar.
You're saying why?
Because, okay, I get that a keyboard is nice for typing on. I totally understand that.
Yeah.
But if this is really a touch-first operating system, I think it should be sold in a touch-first sort of a way. And that means don't have the keyboard, don't have the touchpad, and make sure that the operating system is at least as touch-first as iOS and Android.
You're saying the Surface is delivering two messages to the other PC OEMs. The obvious message, you must be at least this thin and well-designed, but there's the other message, too. Oh, and by the way, you'll need a good mouse and keyboard solution. That's I hadn't thought about that. It's kind of a contradiction.
It's kind of a strange thing to do, I think.
Unless you believe that the future is not
one or the other.
It's PC Plus, right?
That's that is their angle, that the tablet is a kind of PC, and that you don't want to chuck away any of the things that the PC is good at. And that would be great, except for this whole thing called Windows RT that runs only on ARM and can't run any third-party desktop software, and discards all of the accumulated value that the PC has built over the last 30 years. So apart from that little thing...
I mean, a lot of people, not everybody by any means, but a lot of people buy keyboards for their iPads. So I think an optional keyboard makes sense.
Right.
It's a smart cover, so that's in a way kind of a little jab at Apple. But you do raise the point. And why a trackpad if touch is so good? I mean, I don't use a trackpad on my iPad. I just touch the screen.
Right. And there's nowhere in iOS that makes you think, actually, I need a trackpad.
No.
To do this.
In fact, absolutely not.
But remember last week, there was a patent application from Apple that came out last week. I'm pretty sure it was last week, where they showed a cover that they had applied for a patent for that was a keyboard, right?
Yeah.
So it's not just Microsoft thinking this way too, right? It's like maybe other people are thinking we want keyboards.
Well, and I think that's I would say that. I mean, you see a lot of iPad people with basically they've turned their iPad into a mini laptop, but it's an option. It's not, and I think I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think to Peter's point, the iPad is perfectly acceptable without a keypad or trackpad or a keyboard. I mean, it's fully functional without that. You don't ever say, oh, gosh, I wish if I only had a mouse, this thing would really fly. And you're saying that in a way Microsoft's implying that maybe you will wish you had a mouse.
Yeah. Because like Office 2013 is the big one for me. They've got their new touch mode, and it's a bit better with touch than Office 2010, but not a whole lot better. And there are still lots of dialog boxes and bits of the ribbon and things like that where you're going to sit there and think, gosh, I need a mouse to really use this, because I keep, I'm trying to change an option and I keep pressing the wrong button.
But is this such a negative? I mean, really? I mean, maybe they're right. Maybe it's nice to have all three. And is that a negative?
It's nice to have all three when it's my choice.
You can rip the keyboard off the Surface. Like, you can use the Surface without the keyboard.
Sure. Yeah. You wouldn't want to use Office without the keyboard.
No.
I guess that's the point, right?
That's bad. Well, Apple has got... my mind has gone completely blank. What are they called? Numbers and Keynote and...
Yeah. They have numbers, Keynote, and Pages.
Pages, that's the one. And they work with a keyboard if you want to type faster, but they're still true touch apps.
They're touch apps. Everything, and I would, channeling Steve Jobs, would say that was job one, is these have to be, and I would agree with him. In fact, the apps that aren't native touch apps, and I think this is fail, and I think this is why Microsoft is saying you must make your apps Metro for Windows RT, which is in effect saying they must be native touch apps. They cannot be ports of Windows apps.
Yep.
But maybe they have failed with their own apps.
Right. That's, there are just bits of Windows 8 and big chunks of Office 2013 where they just haven't got there yet. And I think Surface is acknowledging that.
Very interesting.
I agree with Mary Jo that having having all three is good. And I think you said the same. Maybe I'm putting words into Mary Jo's mouth. Having the ability to use a mouse on a keyboard is excellent. I have no argument against that. What I do have an argument against is you're using something with touch, and then you could get dropped into some interface where actually you think, I really wish I had a mouse and keyboard here.
Yeah.
It's when it's something that the operating system is forcing on you, or the software, in the case of Office, is forcing on you rather than something that you're choosing to do. If I'm choosing the keyboard and the mouse because it's quicker, great. If I've got to use them because it's almost unusable without, not so great.
Right.
And that's where I think Microsoft has not quite got it right.
Well, we'll just I imagine you got a little bit of HE double hockey sticks for that point of view.
Yeah, well, the thing that there's certainly a lot of our readers seemed really excited about getting a Surface Pro and then using it to run legacy apps.
So they get it. They say, we need a mouse and trackpad.
Yeah, so they say, we need a mouse and keyboard.
Yeah.
And then my response to them is, yeah, but you can do that on a laptop anyway, and will actually be better because there are things that you can do with a laptop that you can't actually do with the Surface because, you can, I do a lot of my work sitting in an armchair, cross-legged, with a laptop on my lap. So it's not a very flat surface, but laptop doesn't care.
Yeah.
That's not really going to be an option with the Surface, with the keyboard and the little kickstand. It's kind of more restrictive like that.
Mm-hmm.
So, if running these legacy apps with the mouse and with the keyboard is really what you want, use a laptop, I think.
I don't know. I love the idea of carrying this Surface around. I say
me too.
And Peter, I say the same thing when at first I saw people using iPads with keyboards. I said, "Come on, just get an Air." How much harder can it be if you really need a keyboard? That's not what the iPad's all about.
At least they're using touchable apps and not just the legacy apps. That's where it really gets me. I don't think we don't know a lot about the Surface Pro in terms of cost, and I don't remember if they said how much it weighs. I think it's going to be quite light, but we don't know exactly. We don't know about battery life.
Mm-hmm.
So it may not be that great an option if all you want to do is run legacy apps.
Right.
It may turn out to be way more expensive than a laptop. They just say competitive, but
we don't know.
Competitive with what exactly? It's kind of hard to know.
There's one thing we do know: when you don't fill in all the details, then it gives people like Peter Bright a chance to speculate. and there. I mean, that's just part of the deal. If you don't tell people, well, they're gonna use their vivid imaginations. There will be, speaking of getting, we were talking about buying Surface and getting in line for Surface. There will be, I guess, more places to get in line for Surface. Pop-up stores.
Yay! Yes. So, Leo, there's going to be one in San Francisco.
Oh, good.
So you
I
can
always
just
puzzled
go
me
down
that there was no Microsoft store in the city.
How about none in New York City?
That's even more puzzling. That's bizarre.
But we're going to get a pop-up store, too.
Good.
There's one in Houston.
Yes.
Houston's better for just about everything.
Yeah.
I like how that caused out loud laughter from the Houstonites.
It's fantastic.
And great weather. Although, I have to say, Dwight Silverman was telling me that Houston is becoming the new Austin, that there's a big arts community and it's really kind of blooming and blossoming. Is that true? He didn't seem convinced.
No, I haven't spent as much time as I would like in Austin, but I don't see too many similarities at the moment.
Pop-up stores, there are going to be 12 new pop-up stores. Is there a list somewhere of these?
Yeah, I put up a list. There's some unlikely spots and some likely spots. We got Chicago, Miami, Portland, Oregon, San Francisco, New York, Vancouver, British Columbia.
Good.
Pretty interesting.
Love Vancouver.
And then Braintree, Mass. and Natick, Mass. And since I'm from Mass, like Paul, I know it's because there's a lot of malls out there.
It's just there's a place for it. There are a lot of dying malls out there.
Yeah. The Natick, Mass. Mall is pretty popular and pretty big. It's right near where my mom lives. I've been there. So now my mom can go to the Windows store. Yay.
Do you think this is, in some ways, because of Paul Thurrott? Well, I mean, come on. Look, 2 stores in suburban Massachusetts? Come
Plus
on, really?
one in Boston.
Just to keep Paul happy.
I mean, Massachusetts is a great state, but really, do they need 3 pop-up stores? How many are in California?
Well, California has a bunch of permanent stores.
Oh, okay, that's right. They're also
Mostly
in suburbia. Yeah.
Yep, they are. But yeah, they have a lot of stores in California. Cleveland, Ohio is getting a pop-up.
Right.
And
that's
St.
good.
Louis.
St. Louis. Those all make sense. Those are places where you'd have to go a long way to find a Microsoft store, so it makes sense.
Yeah.
And that's where we'll get primarily the Surface, Windows RT Surface.
Yeah, so you can get Surfaces there. You're going to be able to get Windows 8, Windows Phones, because we're going to have new Windows Phones out.
That's right. Apollo will be out by then.
So it'll be all good for people who are looking for Microsoft stuff. You'll have more options.
Well, you'll have 3.
I'm just happy to get a pop-up store in New York. I rant about this all the time.
Where did you have to go? Did you have to go to Long Island? Where did you have to go?
So I don't have a car.
Yeah.
And so when I have bought a PC in the past, I've just bought them online because I'm like, what am I going to do? Like, I don't even have a driver's license anymore. I don't.
Typical New Yorker.
I know. So I can't rent a zip car and go get a PC, throw it in the back. No. I'd have to bring it on the train. It's not that convenient, guys.
No. You go to Danbury, Connecticut. That's not too
I could
far.
Go
Huntington Station. That's the pop-up store, Walt Whitman shops. White Plains.
No, that's permanent. I think the one in Long Island's permanent.
So probably the nearest is Freehold, New Jersey, right?
Yeah, probably.
That's the problem. You just don't want to go to New Jersey.
No New Yorker wants to go to Jersey.
I'm not insulting any more cities. After I insulted Tacoma on a recent episode, and boy, did I get some mail.
You see the postcard I got?
You can't do that.
No, by the way, it wasn't Mary Jo. It was me. I said bad things about Tacoma, and I got a lovely postcard from a Tacomite. That sounds like a mineral. Come to Tacoma, we've got balls.
Wow.
So there it is. It says, we heard you've been told disparaging things about our gritty city. It only smells bad if the wind blows from Seattle.
Ouch.
Di and Eddie Graves. I love it. It only smells bad when the wind's blowing from Seattle. It's got a nice bridge. Tacoma, I was told, I went to Tacoma. I visited Tacoma. Talked with the mayor, I think. I did a whole bunch of Tacoma stuff some years ago. And they were at the time pitching themselves as the most wired city in America, or at least in the Pacific North. The most wired city within a few miles of Seattle, I think, was the was the claim. The most wired city between Seattle and northern Seattle. I don't know. So thank you, Di and Eddie, for sending me that.
Nice.
That's cute. That's really cute. One more unit of useful information. The big Surface Cake.
Yeah, you got to check this out.
Is this a touch cake?
It's a touch cake. This is a cool picture if the guy didn't take it down.
It's making me hungry. No, it's still here.
It's still there. So they had the Windows 8 ship party in Redmond this week. And see that thing? That's a cake.
That's
the thing
nice
that looks like a table.
Yeah. How do you know it's a cake?
Well, come on. That's true. Just like the Surface, you're not allowed to touch it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Which makes it even more authentic.
No, wait a minute. That guy's got his fork in it.
Oh.
Yes.
We have a fork in it.
Okay.
Stick a fork in it. So
Stick a fork in it. It's a cake.
It's a cake. Is the whole thing a cake? No.
I don't think
think
the
that's a
table
table
part's a
layer.
cake.
Well, how can you tell? It all looks like plastic. I don't know.
I know. I didn't know if it was a real cake, but the guy who took it said it's a cake.
It looks like they're eating it. Surface,
Yeah.
good enough to eat. You've heard about the
Yeah.
lickable interface of...
The edible interface.
It is the edible interface. Wow. Is that
It's
a
pretty cool.
Microsoft party?
Yeah, that's at Microsoft. That's the ship party.
That is very cool.
Mm-hmm.
That's very cool. I like it. Google names its products after desserts. Microsoft
Just eat them.
eats them. Turns them right into dessert. Speaking of trackpads, do not track. And IE10, this was a big surprise. We talked about it yesterday on Security Now. At first, Microsoft said in IE10 we're going to turn that on by default. Everybody got up in arms over it, and Microsoft backed down and said, all right, it'll be off by default. But no, it is going to be on. No? Is that the wrong chronology?
Everyone got up in arms. W3C, the World Wide Web Consortium, people putting together the Do Not Track specification, they said it must not be turned on by default.
It's not. The specification specifically
spec
says
it must not be turned on by default.
Yeah, that was their concession to the ad tracking industry, as they say.
And Microsoft said, "We are Honey Badger. We don't care. It's going to be on by default."
Honey Badger don't care.
Yeah. So the advertisers are threatening to say, well, if they're not following the spec, we don't have to stop tracking them, which is kind of a big deal because it means that what Microsoft is doing is useless, but it also means that probably what will end up as the most widely used browser will be ignored when it comes to Do Not Track. It's a really big, messy issue.
Wait a minute. Now that's a big deal. So you're saying because they're violating the spec and acting on behalf of consumers' privacy, the Do Not Track registry will now ignore whatever Internet Explorer 10 says.
Yeah, because
they will, in other words, always track Internet Explorer 10 regardless of your setting.
Right. Their argument is because
that's
Internet
horrible.
Explorer is not to spec, we don't have to care what it says.
Now, I have to say, by the way, and I know I'm really in opposition to every single human on the planet, that I don't think tracking cookies are really an invasion of privacy, and I understand. I don't use tracking cookies, but as ad-supported media, I understand that media that's supported by ads uses these cookies, and there are, I would say, it's reasonable to say, they're a big part of the way the web gets financed. So I understand W3C's position.
I agree with you because what's the worst that happens with a tracking cookie, really? The
You get customized ads. Big deal.
The advertisements you see are slightly more relevant to the things that you want to buy. Right. How is that bad? I would love if the TV never showed me an advert for a car because
only
I'm never
stuff. Yeah, you and Mary Jo don't need a car.
Right. Exactly. And so having that kind of customization, actually, I don't see a problem with.
I know, but you're walking into a buzzsaw, Peter Bright. Not that you're afraid of that, obviously.
No.
But I've said that for a long time. And now, to me, I have no dog in this hunt. Ars Technica does, I'm sure, that your advertisers probably want that information.
I wouldn't speculate about such things, but it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, almost all web publishers use tracking cookies, or their advertisers use tracking cookies, and it is part of how the web gets financed. And I think it's a little bit disingenuous as a user of the free web to say, oh, but I want to disable these technologies that pay for the web that I'm using for free. However, I've said this before, and I get such hate mail.
Private by default, I think, is also a defensible stance.
I agree. I mean,
that's.
I think you should have the switch. And really the debate is over whether it's opt-in or opt-out. But I absolutely cannot agree with the W3C's position that since Microsoft decided not to follow the spec and turn it on by default, we're going to ignore the user setting. That's like ignoring a hanging Chad.
No, I should make that clearer. It is advertisers saying that. W3C hasn't said that.
No, but
W3C at the moment hasn't said anything about what should
advertisers are looking for any loophole.
But right, exactly. It opens up the loophole to the advertisers,
right. And that's reprehensible.
W3C isn't necessarily condoning the behavior, but they're also not saying, no, you've got to respect it no matter what.
Right. No, and so absolutely, yeah. But see, advertisers, you're stupid to do that, because what you're doing is you are now confirming what everybody's belief is, which is that tracking cookies are bad. You're demonstrating bad faith.
Right.
And so you really should, if a consumer expresses a preference, whether it's opt-in or opt-out, you should respect that preference. I guess their position is, well, the consumer didn't get a chance to express a preference.
Well, yeah, so Microsoft says when you first start up Internet Explorer 10, it gives you the two options. You can have Express or Customize. And Express will set the home page. And
everybody uses Express, right? Everybody does.
I go Customize, but...
Well, you're not everybody.
No.
You're done for pizza.
Not necessarily to change any of the settings, but just to see what settings it's setting.
Right. But it's and this
says that that's close enough to an opt-in that we're above board.
I see lawsuits.
Yeah,
I see rich lawyers in this one.
Either that or legislators get involved.
Right.
And stop giving advertisers the choice.
Well, but it is the tyranny of the default, right? People, and this is another Steve Gibson phrase. People, whatever the default is, that's what's going to happen in 90% of the cases, because most users say Express. Most users don't care or want to know. So whatever Microsoft chooses as the default. This happened, by the way. This happens on iOS. Mm-hmm. This was that whole Google issue. Google was trying to get around the Do Not Track that was on by default in Safari on iOS. And Google ended up having to pay a fine. Yeah.
And, you know, it would be nice if all users were really interested enough and cared enough to actually look at these settings and make an informed decision. And, you know, I think if they'd really understood the issue, that a lot of people might actually say, yeah, tracking is fine.
I agree, and I think that's, if I were the industry, I would spend more time trying to change the name, because tracking is a terrible name because it implies somebody's tracking you.
Yeah,
problem one.
Yeah, it sounds stalkerish.
Yeah,
do you want to allow stalking cookies?
Yeah, the stalking cookie.
It's like, who wants that?
Yeah.
Probably not many. I think.
Right. But but I want to make it clear, at least in my opinion, and apparently in Peter's as well, it is not stalking or tracking.
No.
But anyway, and Mary Jo is very wise.
How about following?
Well, it isn't. Following implies agency, and
it does.
And that's the problem. Is there's no agency here.
No,
there's
I was
no
sitting
human.
here thinking, what other word could they use?
Yeah, and this is the problem: is the words do imply, and I think scare, people, because it implies that somebody is following you.
Well, I mean that's one of the things. In theory, if you had so let's say a government agency subpoenaed one of these advertisers' records, yes, they could probably track what someone was doing with a fair degree of precision, I think. But that's not actually what the advertisers are doing. The advertisers will feed this information into a completely automated system.
It's an ad preference cookie.
They don't have some little person who says, okay, wow, I'm going to look at Leo's internet traffic, and he's been looking at holidays and flights and cruises, so I'm going to show him this advert.
It's really trying to figure out what your preferences are so they can show you advertisements for things you're interested in. It's really what it is.
It goes into an algorithm, and it spits out an ad.
Yeah.
And it's kind of harmless, I think, in that regard.
It's an ad personalization setting.
Mm-hmm.
However,
personalizing.
If you turn, and then I think you'd get the exact opposite result, by the way, if you change the name to more accurately reflect it. Would you like ad personalization on or off? Many sites do that, Google included. Would you like Facebook as well? Would you like to turn ad personalization on or off? Give us that. And then if people turn it off, I understand, that's fine.
Yeah.
But I think the result would be the exact opposite. People say, "Oh no, I like personalized ads."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, do you want to see ads that are more relevant?
Right. Yeah, and both Google and Facebook do have that checkbox, which is turning the tracking off and on. That's what it is. Let's see. We got a couple more things I want to run through here. We're getting a little short on time, so let's hustle. Office 23, all your add-ons are now apps. This is the cloud app model.
Yeah, I just thought this is another naming thing, but it's a little more than just a naming thing. So it's not a Metro Windows 8 kind of naming thing. This is a little more significant. So one of the things that hasn't gotten a ton of play about Office 2013 is what they're doing around add-ons. And, you know, in the past, if you had add-ons, you could develop them with VBA, Visto. There were all these specialized ways to do it. And now, as we go forward with Windows 8 and Microsoft trying to stamp out plugins and trying to stamp out add-ons, they're moving to this new thing they call their cloud app model. And what that means is going forward, if you develop an Office app, a SharePoint app, an Access app, it's actually going to be an app, a real app that has a referring URL in the cloud. So this is really interesting for a lot of reasons. One is people who do these kind of apps can now keep them more updated because you'll be able to constantly push those updates through the cloud more easily than, you know, having to come out with a new version and push it to people. But also because Microsoft's introducing stores too. There's going to be an Office store going forward, and there's a SharePoint store as well. So if you develop these kind of apps, they're going to be in the store if you adhere to Microsoft's guidelines about how to do that. And you'll be able to advertise them through the store and push them to users through the store, charge through them through the store. And interestingly, Microsoft's taking a 20% cut in these stores, not the 30% cut that they're taking in the Windows 8 store. So if you're somebody who in the past has, you know, kind of had some glorified templates or done a little hacking around with making a SharePoint app, you might want to take a look at this new thing and see if you can actually turn it into money. There's your public service announcement.
Turn it into money. That's all I heard.
Turn it into money.
Okay. What do I do? I'd like to turn it into money.
Print money here.
Well, it's true. Really, people feel that way about the app marketplace. They're looking at the winning developers and going, wow, they're coining gold. They're not looking at the vast majority of developers who are making nothing.
They have a fun app, if you want to check it out in the store, that you can download called Medal Tracker, MEDAL, and it tracks which country has which Olympic medals, and they are showing, hey, this is one of those kind of sample apps you could try.
Cool.
So go check out the Medal Tracker.
The Medal Tracker.
So I think there are probably two other interesting things about this. One, their new app model is not at the moment a replacement for macros. It just doesn't do all the things that macros do. But two is
but you are phasing out all the macro languages in its favor.
That's the next thing. So Office 2013 on x86 has got all the macroing stuff. It's all still there. They all still work. Office 2013 on Windows RT doesn't. It has the new app model, but it doesn't have VBA or anything like that. This is being done, I'm reliably informed, for security reasons. You can use VBA and you can basically write full-blown apps, desktop apps with windows and buttons and that use the mouse and the keyboard and all these sort of things, which Microsoft doesn't want happening on ARM. So although they've done all the work to get VBA running on ARM, they won't let anyone use it because they don't want people creating desktop apps and calling Windows APIs and things through the back door. So the weird thing is, this means that actually one of the things, Windows RT might have been a nice fit for enterprises because it's got full Office and it can run all the little Excel macros and things that people use to run their businesses off, only now it can't because that's turned off, which I find a bit unfortunate.
Yeah.
Well, we'll just see what happens. You know, it could all be okay. Everything could turn around. It could all be better in the end. None of this, we're just warning people. It could all be better in the end.
Well, yeah.
Chicken Little.
You know, I think we're in a time of flux. And just like with Windows Phone, there's going to be a period when people who've gotten used to things one way are going to be not happy campers.
Right.
And Microsoft had to break ranks at some point. They chose now, and so it's going to be a fun few months and a rough few months.
You say that, or alternatively, other option, they could just not be Apple and not restrict everyone, like Android, which actually has more market share now than iOS, so it certainly sells more units than iOS. They could take that model and go that route, and that seems to be perfectly fine. So I don't know. I don't know that we need this brave new world of tight restrictions and sandbox software and all the rest of it. I don't want it.
Well, bad news. You old timer. It's all going to change. Welcome.
The fleet to Linux and Android, and that doesn't really make me very happy.
Well, it's funny. It's interesting. There is an analog. I mean, what was it Ben Franklin said? Those who are willing to trade liberty for security deserve neither. And there's an analog in the real world, where we give up a lot of our freedoms to be safe. And I think a lot of what's going on, all this sandboxing and stuff, is kind of an analogous thing on the desktop. Hey, you wanted a secure computer. You got to let us lock it down.
Yeah, I think it's not going to work in the long run. I think you look at the iOS store; they've got literally hundreds of thousands of apps. Have they really vetted those apps to make sure that they're
right? How secure is it really? Yeah. Well, it's like the TSA. It's an appearance of security. It's security theater.
Yes, and. So I think you could do that kind of vetting for maybe a few hundred apps, but as soon as you get a decent number of apps, you can't do it anyway. It breaks down, and we're back at having systematic operating system protections like protected memory and file permissions and ASLR and DEP and all the rest of the things that they introduce. So really, what are the restrictions winning us? I think it's a temporary reprieve, if that. And we lose a lot as a side effect. So, yeah. It's not a future I want. It may be the future we're getting, but it's not the future I want.
There's cameras on every corner, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the brave new world. You see that? I mean, not the Supreme Court, a federal court, not the Supreme Court, federal judge just approved the warrantless wiretaps of the years gone by. Yeah. So we are living in that world. If you call somebody overseas that the NSA thinks could be a terrorist, they have the right to listen to your phone call without any oversight from courts. Just flip that switch and listen in.
Well, you wouldn't want to be supporting terrorists.
No. Oh, not me. I stopped buying hummus a long time ago. Let me tell you. I've learned my lesson. Microsoft drops the live. What does that mean?
A lot of naming.
Is this Metro going away too? And the live and Metro?
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh, wow. Now, we saw this coming, though, right?
Yeah, this one we kind of did see coming. Yeah. So the thing formerly called Windows Live Essentials 2011.
Oh, God. The princification of Microsoft.
I know. We need some little symbols for all these new things.
Glyph. Microsoft
Glyph.
Yes,
a glyph. Now called Windows Essentials 2012. No live. The word live has been expunged. So when you hear
sense.
Windows Essentials 2012, think about it being the new suite of the Windows Live stuff.
I never understood really what the live meant anyway. What is it?
Yeah,
I mean, as opposed to what?
It was their online branding, but then they also used it for these apps.
Right.
So
that's where they went wrong. I mean, it was Windows. So Live was a site that suddenly became everything.
Yeah.
So I understand that.
Yeah. So there's a new
they
version
announced
now.
this changed some time ago, didn't they?
They did.
Yeah, we've been talking about this for a while. Yeah.
They did. So the new version, though, came out this week of the suite now called Windows Essentials 2012. And the two things that got revved, very visibly revved, were Movie Maker, no longer called Windows Live Movie Maker, now just Movie Maker, and Photo Gallery. They both got a number of updates. The other things that are in there didn't get updated. So the thing that's called Live Writer, which I don't know if it's now called Writer or if they're just going to discontinue.
Is that the blogger tool? I like that tool.
It is.
Yeah, that's a great
a lot
tool.
of people like that tool.
Paul used it, I think.
He did. He did, and a lot of people I know use it.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going to happen.
I've never used it, but it has a lot of fans.
You never have? Yeah.
No.
It has fans. It has its own fan club. No, we don't know what's going to happen. But the other one that people were a little more up in arms about this week was in the fine print. It says, if you do install this suite and you are somebody who uses Live Mesh, Microsoft's PC Sync program, it's going to take that off your system and replace it with SkyDrive. So, SkyDrive is great. We talk a lot about SkyDrive on the show. It does a lot of cool stuff. But there's a lot of things, well, not a lot. There's a number of things it does not do that Live Mesh does. And people don't want that. They want their Live Mesh, or they want some third-party tool to do some non-cloud-based PC-to-PC sync and to be able to control what they sync more granularly. So if you do care about Live Mesh, don't put Windows Essentials 2012 on your machine. It's hard to get all these new names right.
So wait a minute. If you want Live Mesh, say that again. Don't put Windows 20. What?
Don't.
Windows Essentials 2012.
Windows Essentials 2012. Do not install
It'll
this.
Delete Mesh?
It'll take Mesh off.
Well, that's not right. You shouldn't remove a feature. Oh, it'll put SkyDrive on
in its place.
In lieu of.
Right.
Yes. But it's not got all the functionality.
No.
No.
You should not remove features with an upgrade. It seems to me.
Well,
Leo, I think you're not getting the whole Metro aesthetic. I think removing features is the name of the game.
But what if you relied on a feature in Mesh?
I know. Right.
I think that's too bad. I think that's their response.
And if you like the things that they put in Movie Maker or Photo Gallery, these new things, because there are some nice things in there. Like there's a new auto collage thing in Photo Gallery that's pretty neat. There's some things you can do about adding music. They've added some rights to new music stores. You can add music to your movie. So there's cool things in there, but you have to decide. Do you care more about those or do you care more about Live Mesh? It's up to you.
Are they clear that will happen? Do they say, hey, just so you know?
If you click on a sublink in the post that I saw, you go to a page that tells you this. But I think a lot of people don't know that.
Yeah, no. Most people just, it's an upgrade. Yeah, it's got to be better.
Now, to be fair, there are kind of alternatives out there for the things that Live Mesh does, but Live Mesh does it, and the alternatives you'd have to install.
That's why you listen to this show, so you know this stuff. That's the point. That's why you have to listen to Windows Weekly, because then we'll tell you and warn you. Steve Martin apparently has a word for it. It's called disprovement. It's not an improvement, it's a disprovement. Or a deprovement.
A deprovement.
An unprovement. Let's quickly get our picks of the week, starting with a software pick of the week. Now, is this Peter going to do this? He's going to take over for the Thurrott man? Go ahead, sir.
So, I blog. I use
a blog, therefore I am.
Called Markdown, which was invented by John Gruber, unfortunately.
Unfortunately? Wait a minute. Hold on. You can't get away with that. You can't get away with that.
Well, isn't he? I would have thought he's the kind of arch enemy of Windows Weekly because he's a big Apple guy. I would say,
and he takes pot shots at Paul Thurrott regularly.
Yes.
So you're right. He is the enemy. Until I do Mac Break Weekly, and then suddenly he's not the enemy anymore.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's just, for this 2 hours, he's the enemy.
Right.
But Markdown is great. It's so much nicer than HTML because it's just less cluttered. And it does all the simple formatting very easily. And I use a thing called Markdown Pad at www.markdownpad.com, which is a cute little .NET app that gives you
it is.
A split window. Down one side, you write your Markdown. Down the other side, you see the formatted result. And that's what I do pretty much all of my writing in.
That is great.
It's a great little app. Free.
We have Markdown apps.
If you blog and do Markdown.
On Mac, there are Markdown apps. And, of course, a lot of people I use Markdown all the time. But there's nothing. I like this side by side. That is really nice.
It's nice.
So you see the preview of your Markdown instantly.
Yeah. And if you're doing something that doesn't support Markdown, it can do a HTML export as well.
Mm-hmm.
So So you can still write the markdown.
Sweet.
Come out of it.
Markdownpad.com, free.
Yep.
And it works on XP even. Aren't you happy? Our enterprise pick of the week, Mary Jo Foley, is going to take up the reins on this, as she always does when we get to enterprise.
Yes. And, I think we've talked about this one on the show, but I keep getting a lot of people saying to me, is this out yet? And it's Windows Server 2012 Essentials. Yes, something else with the word Essentials in it. Not having to do with the thing we just talked about, which was Live Essentials, now called Essentials also.
Essentials is the new Plus pack.
It kind of is. Yeah. So Windows Server 2012 Essentials, making sure I get all the words in the right order, is what replaces Small Business Server. Remember, we had some sad episodes with Small Business Server going away. And it also is supposed to be, if you're a small business and using Windows Home Server as your small business server, what you replace that with.
Good.
So this thing is in beta now. You can download the beta. It's been out for a couple of weeks, but I don't think a lot of people realized it went to beta. It went to beta in the midst of a whole ton of other things all happening at once. So yeah, it's out in beta. I doubt that it's going to be following the same schedule as the rest of Windows Server 2012, as that has already RTM'd. But you can go try that out now if you're a small business and see if you think it's as good as Small Business Server.
Cool. And how much is that? Well,
it's only in beta
free,
now,
right? So the beta's
beta's free, so we don't know yet what they're going to charge. Okay. I don't think we know.
And we have a rumor of the week that makes me smile.
Yeah, this is a crazy rumor. Okay, let me preface this with one source only, people, so far that I can prove. Only one known source. But this is a fun rumor. Remember when people thought Windows 8 was going to have the build number of 8888?
Yeah, the lucky build number.
Right, the lucky build number. But it didn't.
It
ended up being 9200.
Which is crazy.
Right. But Microsoft supposedly is doing something with that mysterious 8888 number. Ooh. And the rumor is they've given everybody on the Windows team who's been there at least 6 months $8,888 as a ship bonus for shipping Windows 8.
Awesome!
Isn't that kind of fun?
Do you work for Microsoft? Oh, he's jumping up and down. I thought he was happy. He was a Microsoft employee. $8,888.88.
One source rumor, only a rumor. I can't corroborate that one yet, but it's a fun one because of the number.
Here's the bad news: it's Microsoft bucks.
Yes.
Well, the bad news is just 88 cents.
8,888 pennies.
It's kind of fun. If it's true, it's kind of cool.
Zune. Oh, I know what it is. It's Microsoft points. It's Xbox points.
8,888
Microsoft points. Woohoo!
Are points going away too?
I don't know. And I don't care.
Who can keep up?
I am a happy Xbox Gold member. That's all I care about. Peter Bright writes at Ars Technica, and he writes about Windows. Is there a special ghetto they stick you in?
There used to be. There isn't anymore.
It's not like the Windows ghetto, because Jackie Chang, she's in the Mac ghetto.
Well, yes. So she's in Infinite Loop. I was in One Microsoft Way, but we don't have One Microsoft Way anymore.
That's a funny name, actually. No more of that. But if you just click the Microsoft tab or whatever,
I don't know if we even have a Microsoft tab anymore.
Whatever there is, just search for Bright.
Yeah, click my name, and then you'll get.
Yeah, and I have to say, and I'm going to give you a plug because we were talking about ad-supported media, but one thing Ars Technica has done. Ours is owned by Condé Nast, right?
Yeah.
One thing Ars Technica has done, and I think it's kind of an experiment Condé's doing, is they have a subscribe link to get Ars Premiere, which I did not because I wanted any of the features, but they are good features. You get like a subscription to Wired Magazine, which is a pretty good feature, but just because I thought Ars Technica is so damn good and I use it every single day, it deserves my support. So I actually did send them money. However, you don't have to. To read Peter's great stuff. Ars Technica is, I really love it. It is a fantastic. Let's see, do they have anything? They have great names. Infinite Loop. They have no Microsoft anything.
Yeah, no, we get bundled in.
Are you in the Ministry of Innovation?
No, I'm in Technology Lab, the IT section.
Technology Lab and Information Technology. There you go. All right.
Somewhere
in there. You'll find Dr. Pizza. Follow him on Twitter, Dr. Pizza. That's the best way to find all of his links. Mary Jo Foley is at allaboutmicrosoft.com. That is a ZDNet blog, all about Microsoft, and it is the place for scoops. If you want to know what's going on, it is where I go. Great site. All about Microsoft. And ZDNet's doing a great job, but I like it that they give you kind of your own URL, your own place. It's just Mary Jo. It's so good.
I know. I like it too.
No, it is. It's wonder. I think this is brilliant of them because you're such a person. And they, by the way, do have a Microsoft tab. But you're such a voice that's what you want to do. Subscribe to that. Allaboutmicrosoft.com. Thank you both for being here. Paul, I guess he'll be back next week unless he falls off the Eiffel Tower later today, which is always a risk. But we will do this show again next Wednesday, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern Time, 1800 UTC on TWiT.tv. If you miss any episode, it's great if you can watch live. I really encourage you to do that. We follow the chat room. It's a great input for me. But if you can't, please, by all means, get the on-demand versions of our shows, audio and video available at twit.tv/ww, or you can always get it on iTunes. If you subscribe, you'll never miss an episode, or Zune, wherever it is that you get your What are you laughing? What are you? No, see, that's
for both people with a Zune.
The Zune marketplace.
I have one. Come on.
There's 3, 4. We got 4. We're counting them up. Or on Windows Phone. Everywhere you want to get it, we make it. And we are working.
We have a lot of listeners.
We have a ton of listeners who listen to us. And we are working on. I've been talking with Rob Greenlee, and we really want to get an Xbox app. I know that that's a priority for Windows Weekly viewers. So we're working hard on that. Thank you all for being here. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye on Windows Weekly.